Hello and welcome to the Mum Boss Method podcast. I'm Chrissy, you know that, and I record one of these podcasts every week. And something that I promised I would be bringing in 2026 was talking about some of the harder topics that, as postmenopausal women and mums, we are dealing with. And I am so thrilled to have Gemma Donnelly with me today. You're going to love this because you're going to love her accent because I know you lot and I know you will. Um, Gemma, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. And thanks for coming. So I met Gemma in November. Was it November we you did the
Yeah,
event? Yeah.
yeah, it
So
was.
at an event in Manchester, and I was so interested in everything Gemma had to say. I did a Sunday evening breathwork session with Gemma that she put on, and I know some of you joined as well, which was amazing, Gemma. And I just knew I needed to get her onto the podcast. So, Gemma, welcome to the Mum Boss Method podcast.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having
Gemma, thank you. Gemma's already met Henry, everyone, because he was
me.
pacing around behind me, and then he needed to see who was on the podcast. Um, Gemma, tell everyone who you are, a little bit about you, and what you do.
So I'm an anxiety and confidence coach, and I work with a lot of mom bosses, but men as well. So mainly women, but yeah, a lot of men, people that are usually working parents. Some of them aren't parents, but yeah, definitely everyone that listens to the mom boss method, definitely would relate to like everything that I talk about. So yeah, I obviously coach a lot on anxiety and confidence in relation to the mind and the nervous system. And the event that we met at, we were talking about the taboos, which I think, it's helpful to talk about these things because with shame like exists because we feel that we are alone with our own experience, whether that's anxiety or insecurities or like lots of different life experiences. And so whenever we have more conversations like this and we diminish the shame and we realize that we're more alike than we are different. So yeah, excited for a chat.
I love that. How did you get into doing what you do?
It's been a real journey, I have to be honest. So I've been doing this for 6 years. But originally, whenever I first started out, I was in law. I experienced burnout when I was younger, and that then set me on a path of understanding more about the mind and the nervous system. I continued my other career, and actually that went really well. Worked in consultancy, and by that stage, I was on my own self-development journey. So I was learning tools and techniques to support my own mind and my own nervous system to work through those fears, insecurities, and of which I had a lot, and shame and lots of different things. So my knowledge now and originally stemmed from my own personal experience, and then I learned different things that really helped and supported me. And I just thought, listen, more people need to know about this, and I can't be the only one having these experiences. And yeah, I just wanted to silence the shame and the stigma of our natural human experiences. So retrained in all the tools and techniques that work for me. And so yeah, it started originally with the mind, learning loads about the mind. So neurolinguistic programming, integral eye movement therapy, hypnotherapy, and conscious connected breath work are some of the tools I use. So that's to do the mind and the body to basically retrain the mind and reset the nervous system so that we can live with more ease and joy. That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, live with more ease and joy. What an amazing statement to make. Who doesn't want to live with more ease and joy?
Mhm.
Um, okay, so let's dive straight in because my experience with anxiety has, I would say that I didn't experience anxiety until I was probably 35, 36. And for a really long time, I found it really difficult to put a name to what I was feeling.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and I still I still experience it now, but one of the things that I'm definitely learning is not to attach shame to that, and we'll come on to it. But
Mhm.
what is anxiety?
Perceived threat in the body and in the mind. So we have this thing within all of us called neuroception. If you think of the mind as having like a little security guard in there, a wee person that's working on overdrive, and sometimes that perceived threat can feel very real in the mind body, but not exist. It's almost like having a security alarm in the house, a smoke alarm that's going off even whenever you're just burning toast in the toaster. And in your mind body, you feel like, oh my God, the whole house is going to go on fire. So if you think of neuroception like that, the little internal security guard or the smoke alarm that's sounding off and create an internal panic in the mind body, that actually isn't the level of risk that we feel it to be. So it's perceived threat that we feel in our mind body.
Hmm. So my understanding now,
Hmm.
now that I've done my own personal development and been on my own journey, is that
Hmm.
we need some level of anxiety. So for a good chunk of years, I tried to, and I'm going to say this in bunny quotes for those of you listening rather than watching, trying to get rid of my anxiety.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but what my understanding is now is no, we need that. We need a
Hmm.
certain level of that
Hmm.
because we need a warning system.
Yeah, if you were to go out into the road and a car almost like knocked you over, you want your system, your internal system to be on guard for that car that's coming. Otherwise, you wouldn't have realized that you need to move out of the way and there's a car coming. So, absolutely, we do need that system to be on and to be functioning. The problem is whenever it's working on overdrive and it's not allowing you to relax or realize that the threat's over.
Yeah. Yeah, the threat's over, but also, and this is a question, my understanding again is
Hmm.
that we have, if we go back through our evolution,
Hmm.
a saber-toothed tiger was a
Hmm.
real threat to us.
Yeah.
Um, Something that makes us feel that perceived threat now um, actually is not a threat of, so stepping out in front of a bus, absolutely a
Hmm.
threat of death.
Yeah.
But if I'm
Yeah.
having anxiety about my work day, for example,
Yeah.
one would hope my work day isn't going to kill me.
I
I
know.
don't do life or death work. I'm not going up skyscrapers
Uh-huh.
to clean the windows. So, the my understanding, or perhaps you could correct my understanding if it's wrong, is that we feel perceived threat and the perception is different to the actual threat.
Yeah, exactly. And you're absolutely right in the sense that it can feel in your body that it's like a life or death situation. That fear can be so real, even if you take public speaking as an example. That's one of the a really common, if not most common fears that a lot of people have. And of course, there is no life-threatening risk there, but try that, tell that to your body that is shut down and in fear, hands sweating, voice box maybe not working. It's all well and good if someone's telling you, oh, it'll be fine if your body doesn't feel that way. So that's when you need to like really listen and work with your body, not shame yourself for feeling the fear, but work with that.
Mhm. Why do we attach so much shame to things like anxiety? Why? Where does that come from?
I would say, to be honest, ignorance really. So ignorance is like a lack of knowledge and awareness. And I think the more we talk about these things, the more we realize what it is, that it's not a weakness, that it's no reflection upon you or your like ability to cope or your capacity or any of those things. But yeah, people didn't really talk about them back in the day and it wasn't known. So then anything that's not known gets dismissed and diminished.
Mm,
So I remember, whenever I grew up in Ireland and people would just say, oh, my nerves, like nobody would have known of anxiety. And whenever I experienced burnout, I'd never even heard of the word anxiety before. So there's no way I thought I had it. And if you were to say, have you ever experienced anxiety in the past? I would have absolutely said no. And then when you look back and you think, and you're like, actually, yeah, maybe, you join the dots. And like, I remember even for myself, then being at school, I put a lot of pressure on myself for exams. And I remember one exam in particular where I was definitely for experiencing anxiety, but I never knew that at the time. And if you had told me I had anxiety, I wouldn't have believed you anyway.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a really key point. I know I started this podcast by saying I don't feel like experienced anxiety until I was mid-30s. Perhaps I did before that, but
Mhm.
didn't perhaps have the knowledge or the language or the self-awareness to understand what I was experiencing. So
Mhm.
I know everyone will feel this differently,
Yeah.
but typically, what do you hear are the bodily feelings of anxiety?
The most common ones that people are aware of, because there's awareness and unawareness. So the ones that they're aware of initially would be like the panic in the chest, they feel it here, and perhaps tension in the jaw,
Mm,
sleep's not great, maybe irritable bowel, so digestive issues. So that's ones that people would be like, okay, maybe I'm anxious because I have those symptoms. The other symptoms that a lot of people would have and they don't realize that that would be linked to anxiety would be lots of tension in the body. So tension is trapped emotion, stuck emotion in the body. And so then they might think, oh, I'm just not very flexible. And actually, that might be stuck emotion. So that can show up again, like the jaw. A lot of tension gets held around there, the back of the neck, and here, the lower back is a very big one. So lots of pain down there. Really, anything like the hips obviously hold a lot of emotion in there. So all of those things. For other people, of course, it might be showing up in their skin, sweats, panic, night terrors,
mm,
intrusive thoughts. But a busy mind, so you can be super productive and super achieving, and everything's great. You know, the house is super organized, all the jobs on the list is done, because there's an underlying panic there.
yeah, yeah. It's I guess the thing I'm trying to think of how we can bridge the gap. So people know that they're feeling something. How how do you suggest people start to be able to notice these things and
Hmm.
identify a pattern
Hmm.
and be able to then say, this is what I'm feeling and I need to do something about it?
Usually their mind would be busy. So
Mm,
I'd say, how's your thoughts? Are your thoughts helpful and supportive? Are they busy? And then that's usually where it starts from. That's the awareness comes from that. It's like, oh my God, like I can't switch off. I feel if I rest, I feel guilty. I feel like I should be doing something. What if
mm,
this, that, and the other thing happens? Catastrophizing thoughts. So if that's happening, then I would say, okay, just take a breath. Where are you feeling that in your body? And you say, oh gosh, it can be anywhere, but just for example, like, oh, well, my chest, I can really feel it in the chest. It's like, okay. And just sit with that. So that technique is called focusing. Whenever you then basically follow the feeling around
mm,
the body, listen, become attuned to that. And the mind is a meaning making machine. So it'll be wanting to attach stories to that, like, oh my God, my heart's racing, my breath is short, does that mean this, that, and the other? It's like, no, it doesn't need to mean anything. Just actually sit with the feeling, the sensations, as opposed to then attaching the stories to like what that might mean, or, oh gosh, I'm in this kind of state or whatever. Everybody gets anxious. Not everybody has an anxiety disorder, and not everybody finds it helpful to have labels either. So
mm.
just know it's entirely normal. And then actually then the quickest way for you to work with that is to just acknowledge what you're experiencing. So focus on the sensation without trying to attach meaning or story to that.
Yeah. Attaching meaning and story is so pivotal to what I do. And I
Mhm.
talk about it with my clients so much because we, in the work that I do, I work with peri and postmenopausal women. Most of them want to feel better in their bodies. So that could be weight loss, it could be building muscle, getting fitter, feeling more energized.
Mhm.
But my approach is we need to help you to feel better in here and
Hmm.
in here in the inside your body, for those that are listening, inside your body, inside your mind, before you can change anything on the outside, because
Yeah,
so much of what happens is about stories.
yeah,
And if I use a weight loss example, I might work with someone who has struggled with their weight for 25 years of their adult life, and
yeah.
they've lost weight but gained it, and lost weight and gained it. And so we look at actually, what is it that stops you making these life choices a full life choice and
Hmm.
keeps you going back to it. And so much of it often comes back to emotional eating, not being able to regulate
Hmm.
emotions, not being able to cope with stress and things like that. And it comes down to the stories that we tell each other. And I always say just being aware of that inner dialogue, and when you start attaching a story to something that's happening or you're doing or you're thinking or you're feeling is the first
Hmm.
step.
Hmm.
So
And
really
stories
useful.
also really follow state. So what I mean by that is like when we feel, say, like you say, stressed or anxious, or could even be bored and not fulfilled, then that habit of then numbing through food, it's because the stories like, oh God, I'm bored, I'll go and have a cup of tea and a biscuit or something like that, then that story of I'm bored, I'm just going to go and do this habit. The story is from the state. So the story of like, okay, how you feel, what you want to do is following the state of how you're feeling in your body. And whenever you have those habits and behaviors, a lot of them have been laid down from when we were really young. So trying to change those behaviors that have been laid down over many years, I would say go really easy on yourself in terms of compassion, because if you then say you've done a new rule, you've gone hard and fast on it. Say, for example, there's lots of people love the whole January New Me Year, New Me thing, and they're like, okay, I'm never going to eat chocolate ever again, for example. It's a really hard and fast rule. It's very harsh. And then if you in your head slip up and you've had that one bar of chocolate and you're like, I've ruined it all now, had the chocolate, there's a lot of then self-shame. And then I think that that's really harsh whenever actually perhaps your whole diet and your approach with food in terms of, you mentioned emotional eating, has significantly improved. And just because you have, chosen to have a bar of chocolate at that one time, definitely don't shame yourself for your behaviors, but just understand, okay, whenever I eat, is that because I'm bored, stressed, anxious? Okay, maybe then how do I work with that in a different way? Is there another approach I can use? But certainly, instead of just thinking it's a story, also work with how you're feeling in the body. So the sensation, the state the body's in as well. So it's in a state of boredom, fatigue, any of those things, anxiety,
Yeah,
frustration.
yeah, love that. I recognize on reflection that I was keeping myself in a state of high anxiety and stress for about the last 3 months of last year.
Okay.
How is it that we do that? What are the things that keep us in that cycle?
It can be different, so it depends. I don't want to ask you personal questions if you're on a podcast, and you might not feel comfortable with me doing that. But
I don't mind.
what was going on for you around that on that 3 month period, or just in advance of that?
Yeah, it was a huge amount of self-doubt, a
Okay.
huge amount of pressure that I'd put on myself.
Yeah.
And I felt like the answer was to put more pressure on myself
Yeah.
rather than take a step back.
So if that anxiety, then you mentioned it, you described it as anxiety. If that had a positive intention, if that had a role for you, what would that have been? What was it trying to achieve for you?
To tell me to step back.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess such a simple question that you've asked, we as humans often don't. It's really hard to self-coach yourself. This is what I say to my
Yeah.
clients all the time. Like,
Hmm.
when we're talking about food and emotional eating, like, ask
Hmm.
yourself some questions, pause, take that pause. And it's so, I guess, it's so hard when you're already in a state of anxiety, which can feel so different for everyone, to ask yourself logical questions, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
your thoughts are just all over the place.
That part of the brain's not switched on at that point in time. That's like no disrespect to you or anyone. That's just how the brain works. You know,
Yeah,
when we are in a state of emotion, the thinking brain, which is called the prefrontal cortex, it goes offline. So it's literally not there. So you know that phrase, oh, I can't think straight. That
yeah,
is technically scientifically true. You can't
yeah,
think straight. And it's not just you, it's not a reflection, a poor reflection of you. It's literally how the brain works.
yeah, yeah. And that, I think that's so powerful to
Mm,
understand. You know,
yeah.
I think the subtext that you absolutely share is experiencing anxiety is normal.
Yeah.
It is how the brain works, but also we don't need to stay in a high level of anxiety
Yeah.
forever. We can't. I mean, for me, last year it affected my sleep, it affected my appetite, it affected my energy. You can't continue like that for a long
Mhm.
time, because you will end up like you described, burnt out.
Mhm.
But so how do we get from being in this whirlwind of anxiety? What are some of the really simple actions and activities that we can do?
Considering how you're supporting yourself. So
Mm.
what do you do to nourish yourself on a daily basis? Are you starting your day off? I love a good coffee, don't get me wrong, but are you starting the day off with caffeine? That's probably not going to be the most helpful and supportive for you. So just think about each and every part of your day. How can you best support yourself? Everyone I work with is busy. Everybody's busy. So it's like, okay, you don't need to have a 10-step morning routine and all of that. You know, it's just too overwhelming. How about 15 minutes? Can you carve out 15 minutes in your day? How do you want to spend that? So I teach people different tools and techniques because there's like everybody likes different things. So one thing for one person is not going to resonate with another. Like I really like journaling, but some people absolutely hate journaling. So like that wouldn't be right for them. But it's a really simple practice. That's great because all you need is a notepad. You can do that anywhere. Do that at the start of your day or the very end of your day. That's one thing. But just think, how are you nourishing and supporting yourself? That would be the main question. How far up in your priority list are you? That's another question.
Yeah,
I mean, literally, nearly everyone I work with that who are women, the first thing they say to me is that this is the first thing they've ever done for themselves.
yeah,
Ever. And I, you know, coach people of all ages. So that's like true for someone who may be in their 30s right up to their like 70s.
yes,
So, you know, it's the first time where they have decided that they matter too.
yeah, yeah. I'd absolutely resonate with that 100%. I work with women. I work with women, and they might do one of my programs, and at first they find it really hard to carve that little bit of time out for themselves, and then they realize, wow, this really benefits me, and actually it's the first time I've ever done like anything like this, and
Mhm.
it's so incredible.
Yeah.
It really is. um and I Yeah, not the same tools don't work for each person.
Mhm.
The breath working session that we did together was just amazing, and I really enjoyed that. I journal as well. For me, trying to do something creative is really important, and find that time to do something a little bit
Mhm.
creative in every day is really important. And I know I have a lot of creative people in my client groups in
Mhm.
particular as well. Um, do you ever experience people calling what you do the airy fairy stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. And woo woo is what,
Yeah,
is
woo
what they
woo.
say.
Yeah.
Um, and if I'm really honest, you know what, that totally put me off telling people that I did all of these things for myself way before I went and retrained. I've been into doing stuff in relation to this type of self-development since, like I say, I burnt out in my early 20s. So like, you know, a very, very long time ago.
Mm.
And so But yeah, I think like people back in the day didn't see the value in it, thought it was woo woo, airy fairy. And I think a lot of the time what happens, and I work with people in the medical field, doctors and whatever, is that they go down the traditional route of perhaps going to the GP or trying other things. And then they realize that either it doesn't work in a way that they wanted it to, or that they want to try a new approach. And then they think, okay, well, actually, let's see what this is about. Let's see what coaching is about. And I mean, lots of my tools and techniques are science practice. So they're heavily science based. Coaching the nervous system, it's not woo woo. We've all got
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
And the same with psychology, unless, we've not got a head. I don't know how it's not going to apply to you. But yeah, a lot of people do think that it's woo, but if anybody picks up a book, they'll learn that that's not true.
Yeah. I say that really tongue in cheek because it's just something we talk about in my coaching is right, we need to do a bit of the woo woo stuff now because I completely believe that, you know, you can go to the gym, you can do your workouts, you can get your steps, you can eat your protein and your fruit and veg, and you can drink your water and get the rest that you need. But actually, if you haven't worked on your mindset,
Yeah.
then then that will all be temporary. If you
Yeah,
haven't
exactly.
worked on the understanding of why you're doing it and
Yeah.
then woven that into your identity, it's all temporary.
Yeah, 100%. So it's like, yeah, I think about an identity upgrade that I do with people, because if they think, oh, I'm just that kind of person, I'm just an anxious person. That's always who I've been. That's always who I'm going to be. Well, then you're giving yourself that role to fill. You've said it. You said that's who you are. That's who you're going to be. So then your body's going to follow that story from your mind. And it's like, well, maybe that's what you have learned. And maybe you're anxious at times. We all are. That's totally normal. But do
Mm.
you need to identify with that? And that's your whole identity, that's who you're going to be and how you're going to spend the rest of your life. If that's serving you, fantastic. If you would like to try another approach, live with more ease and joy, then absolutely, let's go.
Yeah, living with more ease and joy. You said it again. I love it. Okay, so I know we said that tools and techniques are the things that are going to be useful for me might be different for you and the next person.
Mhm.
But if you were to give my audience peri and postmenopausal mums, the majority of which
Mhm.
busy, lots of responsibilities, maybe caring upwards as well as caring downwards.
Yeah.
What is one thing they can do after spending 35 minutes listening to me and you? What is one thing they could do from themselves today to help them to live with more ease and joy?
I have different tools on my website. I mean, you could go and learn one of them. It takes 3 minutes. Go and do
Love it.
that. So if you want, I do lots of different tools and techniques again, do the mind and body. But if you were then even just to do a 3 minute breath work practice, 3 minutes, that's it. If you did that, commit to yourself for 3 minutes per day. You do one now if you want, or you can do
Yeah.
EFT. It was another little tool that I use. But yeah, the breath basically, I do a breath can be anything from 3 minutes or 1 minute right up to 90 minutes, which is, I think we did about 60 minutes
Yeah,
together.
we did. Yeah.
That's like a full breath work journey. You don't need to have all of that, but you can make 5 minutes for yourself in the day. The breath is the only way for us to tap into our autonomic nervous system. So it's the only way we can change that when we have that perceived threat in the mind body. The breath is the quickest way to turn that down. So I'd say learn a 3 minute tool, breathwork tool. And if that's all you have, that's brilliant because that's 3 minutes and a daily practice more than what you were doing before. Don't overwhelm yourself with lots of different things. If that's all you have, then fantastic. You're still giving it your all.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I'll put the link to that
Yeah.
in the note in the show notes for sure. Because I think that'll be really useful for people to have a direct link to. Gemma, it's been amazing, and I think just listening to you for 36 minutes is a
No.
meditation in itself. Um, I'm going to ask you a food-based question now. What's your
Lovely.
favorite food?
Chocolate.
Chocolate. What's your favorite chocolate bar?
Oh, do you know, I'm just going to go for a Cadbury's Dairy Milk
Yeah.
caramel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it has to be the
Oh,
caramel version, so not
okay. Fridge
fancy.
or cupboard?
Oh, absolutely the cupboard, but I will still take it from the fridge. I'll take it anyway, it's coming.
Love that. I love that. It's been amazing to chat to you. Where's the best place to find you? You hang out a lot on Instagram, don't you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, so I am Gemma Donnelly is on Instagram. But if you're not an Instagram fan, then catch me on my website or anywhere. I'm
Yeah.
everywhere.
You're everywhere. Love it. Okay. Thank you, Gemma, for your time. Really appreciate it. I know that my listeners are going to find this so super helpful. And I will see you very soon. Thank
See
you.
you soon. Thanks for having
Bye.
me. Bye.